The gunshot echoed across the plains as Willow Fletcher dropped to her knees, hands trembling as she pressed them against her father's chest. Blood blossomed beneath her fingers, staining the dry Kansas earth beneath them as his eyes, once so full of life, stared emptily at the cloudless sky above Hays City. "Papa, please," she whispered, though she knew it was too late. The outlaws who had ambushed them on their journey home from town were long gone, disappearing into the rolling prairie with their horses and the month's earnings from their small medical practice. At 23, Willow had never imagined she would be alone in the world. The year was 1873, and the promise of a new life in the West that had brought her and her father from Boston 5 years earlier now seemed like a cruel joke. Dr. James Fletcher had been Hays City's only physician, and Willow his devoted assistant and apprentice. Now she was orphaned, with nothing but their small homestead and her father's medical knowledge to sustain her. 3 days later, after burying her father on their land beneath his favorite oak tree, Willow sat alone at their kitchen table. The house felt impossibly empty. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a simple knot, her green eyes red-rimmed from crying. She stared at her father's medical bag, considering her options. She could sell the property, return east to distant relatives, or a pounding at the door startled her from her thoughts. "Miss Fletcher." "Miss Fletcher, please. It's urgent." Willow rushed to open the door, finding Mrs. Abernathy, the shopkeeper's wife, standing there with panic in her eyes. "It's a wounded man, miss. They found him just outside town. Sheriff says he's been shot, and we all know you've been your pa's assistant these years. There's no one else to help." Willow hesitated only briefly. "Let me get my father's bag." The wounded man had been brought to the sheriff's office, laid out on a table usually reserved for poker games. Sheriff Miller nodded grimly as Willow entered. "Miss Fletcher, I'm sorry to call on you at such a time, but—" "It's all right, Sheriff." Willow approached the table, her heart pounding. She had assisted her father with gunshot wounds before, but never taken the lead. "What happened to him?" "Found him half dead about 3 miles outside town. Horse was gone. Looks like he was ambushed." Willow looked down at the unconscious man. He was tall, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair matted with blood from a wound on his temple. His shirt was soaked with blood from what appeared to be a gunshot wound to his shoulder and another to his side. Despite his injuries, she could see he was handsome, with a strong jaw now covered in several days' growth of beard. "He needs proper care." "We should move him to my home," Willow said decisively. "I'll need help." "You sure about that, Miss Fletcher? We don't know who he is. Could be dangerous." Willow's jaw tightened. "My father wouldn't turn away someone in need, Sheriff. Neither will I." Within the hour, the mysterious stranger was installed in the spare bedroom of the Fletcher home. Willow worked methodically, cutting away his bloodied clothing, cleaning his wounds, and extracting the bullet still lodged in his shoulder. The one in his side had gone clean through, leaving an ugly wound that she cleaned and stitched with hands that surprised her with their steadiness. As she worked, she took inventory of the man she was treating. He was indeed handsome, perhaps 30 years old, with the muscled build of someone who worked outdoors. His hands were calloused but well-shaped. A cowboy, most likely, though he wore no identifying items that might tell her where he was from. Night fell and Willow maintained her vigil by his bedside. His fever spiked and she bathed his forehead with cool water, speaking softly to him though he couldn't hear. "You'll be all right," she murmured. "I won't let you die." It was near dawn when his eyes first fluttered open, startlingly blue against his tanned skin. He looked at her in confusion. "Am I dead?" His voice was a rough whisper. "No," Willow replied, offering him water, "though you certainly tried your best to be." "Where?" He began, then winced in pain. "You're in Hays City, Kansas. In my home, I'm Willow Fletcher. Archer Zimmerman," he managed before his eyes closed again. For the next week, Willow tended to Archer Zimmerman with the same care and attention she had witnessed her father give countless patients. His fever broke after 3 days, and his wounds, while serious, began to show signs of healing without infection, a small miracle in itself. As his strength gradually returned, they began to talk. Archer revealed little about himself at first, only that he was a cowboy who had been driving cattle north from Texas when he'd been separated from his group and ambushed. "They took everything," he said bitterly. "My horse, my pay, my guns." The same might have happened to my father, Willow said quietly, changing the bandage on his shoulder. He was killed by outlaws on the road from town just last week. Archer's blue eyes filled with genuine sympathy. I'm sorry, Miss Fletcher, that's a heavy burden to bear. Willow, please, she corrected him. And yes, it is, but caring for you it's given me purpose these past days. A small smile touched his lips. Then I'm glad to be of service, though I wish it had been under better circumstances. As the days passed, Willow found herself looking forward to their conversations. Archer was well-spoken for a cowboy, educated even. He knew Shakespeare and could discuss politics with an intelligence that surprised her. When she mentioned this, he merely shrugged. My mother was a schoolteacher. She made sure I had books, even when we had little else. 2 weeks after he'd been brought to her, Archer was able to sit up in bed without assistance. His wounds were healing well, though he was still weak from blood loss and the ordeal his body had endured. You've saved my life, Willow Fletcher, he said one evening as she brought him supper on a tray. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't need to repay me, she replied, setting the tray across his lap. It's what my father would have done. Tell me about him, Archer requested, and for the first time since her father's death, Willow found herself wanting to talk about him. He was brilliant, kind. He came west because he believed everyone deserved good medical care, not just those in the big eastern cities. He taught me everything I know. You wanted to be a doctor like him, Willow smiled sadly. Women aren't allowed in medical schools, but yes, I would have liked that. You'd make a fine doctor, Archer said seriously. You certainly patched me up well enough. His words warmed her more than they should have. As April turned to May, Archer grew stronger. He began to move around the house, first with Willow's assistance, then with a cane he fashioned from a piece of oak. Willow found she enjoyed his company more than she cared to admit. There was something about his quiet strength, his intelligence, and the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled that made her heart beat faster. One morning, she came into the kitchen to find him attempting to make breakfast, his movements still stiff but determined. What are you doing? She asked, surprised. Making myself useful, he replied. I've been nothing but a burden to you for nearly a month. You've been healing, she corrected him, taking the coffee pot from his hands. That's your only job. I'm well enough now to do more, he insisted. Your garden needs tending. The roof has a leak, and you've been sleeping in the chair in the sitting room since I took over your spare bedroom, Willow blushed. It's not so bad, it is, he said firmly, and I aim to help as long as I'm here. And how long will that be? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Archer's expression grew uncertain. I don't know, I have no horse, no money. The cattle drive I was with is long gone, he paused. Unless you'd prefer I leave. I understand if no, Willow said quickly, then more calmly. No, that's not what I meant. You're welcome to stay until you're fully recovered. I was curious. He studied her face for a long moment. Thank you, Willow. Over the following days, Archer made good on his promise to help around the homestead. Despite his still healing wounds, he insisted on fixing the leaky roof, mending the broken fence around her small vegetable garden and chopping wood for the stove. Willow protested that he would reopen his wounds, but he was careful, and she had to admit it was nice having someone to share the burden of maintaining the property. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch, watching the sun set over the Kansas prairie. Sometimes they talked, sharing stories of their lives before Hays City. Archer told her of growing up in Missouri, of losing his mother to influenza when he was 16, of drifting west afterward, working on ranches and cattle drives. What will you do now? She asked him one evening in late May as fireflies began to dance over the tall grass. I'm not sure, he admitted. I've been saving for a place of my own, but that money's gone now. He looked at her sideways. What about you, Willow? Will you stay here alone? The question hung in the air between them. Willow had been pondering the same thing for weeks. I don't know, she confessed. The townspeople have started coming to me with their ailments. Nothing serious, cuts, fevers, a broken arm on the Simmons boy, but I'm not a real doctor, I'm just making do with what my father taught me. You're doing more than making do, Archer said. I've seen how you care for them, you have a gift. His faith in her abilities touched something deep inside Willow. For the first time since her father's death, she felt a sense of purpose, of possibility. The next morning, Sheriff Miller rode out to the Fletcher homestead. Willow was in the garden picking green beans while Archer repaired a broken step on the porch. "Miss Fletcher," the sheriff called, tipping his hat. "Mr. Zimmerman, good to see you up and about." "What can we do for you, Sheriff?" Willow asked, wiping her hands on her apron. "Got some news might interest you both." He dismounted, leading his horse to the water trough. "Caught them outlaws that's been terrorizing the area. Gang of 5 men led by a fella named Rudder." Willow's heart skipped a beat. "The ones who killed my father. Same ones, I reckon. They had your pa's pocket watch on him and—" He glanced at Archer, a fine Appaloosa horse that matches the description Mr. Zimmerman gave of his mount. Archer stood straighter, his expression intense. "You caught them, all of them, 4 dead, 1 alive. The survivors singing like a canary, trying to save his neck from the noose. Says they've been working this territory for months, ambushing travelers, robbing the stagecoach. Did they say anything about my father?" Willow's voice trembled slightly, the sheriff's expression softened. "Said it wasn't meant to be a killing. Your pa fought back, tried to protect his money. It was quick, Miss Fletcher. He wouldn't have suffered." A small comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. Willow nodded, blinking back tears. "And my horse, my belongings?" Archer asked. "Horse is at the livery stable in town. Saddlebags too, though they're mostly empty. Found about $20 hidden in the lining, though. Reckon they missed it." After the sheriff left, promising to return the recovered items the next day, Willow and Archer sat in silence on the porch steps. "Does it help?" Archer finally asked. Knowing they've been caught, Willow considered the question. "A little. It doesn't bring him back, but—" "Yes, it helps to know they won't hurt anyone else." She looked at him. "What about you? Now that your horse is found, you'll be able to leave." The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Archer stared out at the horizon for a long moment. "Is that what you want, Willow?" "For me to leave," her heart pounded in her chest. "What I want." She began, then faltered. "What I want doesn't matter. It matters to me." Willow met his gaze, seeing something there that both thrilled and frightened her. "I've grown used to having you here," she admitted. "But I understand you have your own life to return to." Archer moved closer to her on the step, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "What if I told you I'm not sure I want to return to that life?" "What do you mean?" "I've been drifting for years, Willow. Moving from job to job, place to place, nothing holding me anywhere." His blue eyes were intent on hers. Until now, Willow's breath caught in her throat. "Archer, I know it's too soon," he said quickly. "You're still grieving, and we've only known each other a short time. But these weeks with you, they've meant something to me. You've meant something to me." Unable to find words, Willow simply nodded. He was right, it was too soon. Her father had been gone barely 2 months. And yet she couldn't deny the feelings that had been growing inside her, feelings she'd tried to attribute to gratitude or simple companionship. "Stay," she whispered. "For now, we can see what happens." The smile that spread across Archer's face was like sunrise breaking over the plains. The next day, Sheriff Miller returned with Archer's horse, a handsome Appaloosa stallion named Thunder, and his saddlebags. True to his word, most of Archer's possessions were gone, but the $20 hidden in the lining remained, along with a small book of poetry that had belonged to his mother. With his horse returned, Archer was technically free to leave, but true to their conversation, he stayed. June arrived with warm breezes and wildflowers dotting the prairie. Archer's wounds healed completely, leaving only scars as reminders of his brush with death. He took on more work around the homestead, repairing fences, tending the vegetable garden that was now flourishing, and even building a proper chicken coop for the half-dozen hens that provided eggs for their table. Word had spread through Hayes City that the doctor's daughter was providing basic medical care, and hardly a day passed without someone coming to the door with a cut needing stitches, a child with a fever, or a worker with a sprained ankle. Willow treated them all, accepting payment in the form of eggs, fresh bread, or occasionally a few coins from those who could afford it. Archer watched her work with admiration, sometimes assisting by holding a lantern or fetching clean water. One evening, after she had set the broken finger of a young ranch hand, he found her sitting on the porch, looking tired but satisfied. "You're amazing," he said, sitting beside her. "The way you handled that boy's injury," Willow smiled wearily. "It was a simple fracture." Not to him, it wasn't. "Did you see his face when the pain eased? You made a difference today." My father would have done the same, she said automatically, then caught herself. But thank you. Archer hesitated, then reached for her hand. It was the first time he had deliberately touched her outside of the time she had helped him when he was recovering. His palm was warm against hers, calloused from work but gentle. You don't have to thank me for speaking the truth, he said softly. You're building something important here, Willow, not just carrying on your father's work but creating your own legacy. His words touched her deeply. For weeks, she had been moving forward one day at a time, not thinking too far ahead, but Archer was right, she was building something. A medical practice of her own, modest though it was. I couldn't have done it without you, she admitted. Having you here helping with everything else, it's given me the time to focus on the patients. We make a good team, he said, his voice low. Willow looked up at him, at the way the setting sun gilded his features, and felt her heart swell with an emotion she was finally ready to name. Yes, she whispered. We do. That night, as they sat together after dinner, Archer brought up a subject they had both been avoiding. Willow, there's something I need to tell you, her heart skipped nervously. What is it? I've been offered a job, Mason's ranch north of town. He needs an experienced hand for the summer and the pay is good. Relief and disappointment warred within her. Oh, that's wonderful. When would you start? Next week, but he took a deep breath. I'd still be close enough to come back in the evenings if that's what you want. Willow studied his face. Is that what you want? What I want, he said carefully, is to keep building whatever this is between us. But I need to earn my way. I can't keep living here letting you provide for me. You've more than earned your keep, she protested. It's not about that, and you know it. His blue eyes were intense. I respect you too much to be dependent on you. I want to stand on my own 2 feet, to have something to offer you. Understanding dawned on her. Archer, are you courting me? A slow smile spread across his face. I'm trying to, Willow Fletcher, rather awkwardly it seems. Joy bubbled up inside her, unexpected and bright. It's not awkward, she assured him, reaching for his hand. It's perfect. The summer unfolded in a pattern that suited them both. Archer rode out to the Mason ranch each morning, working from sunrise until late afternoon before returning to the Fletcher homestead. Willow continued to see patients, her confidence growing with each successful treatment. In the evenings, they shared meals, talked of their days, and slowly, carefully, their relationship deepened. Their first kiss happened on a warm July evening as fireflies danced around them on the porch. Archer had brought home a bouquet of wildflowers, and as Willow thanked him, he leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. It was gentle, questioning, and when she responded by sliding her arms around his neck, he pulled her closer, deepening the kiss until they were both breathless. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, he confessed, resting his forehead against hers. What took you so long? She teased, her fingers playing with the hair at the nape of his neck. I wanted to be sure you were ready, that this wasn't just gratitude or convenience. Willow pulled back slightly to look into his eyes. This is neither of those things, Archer Zimmerman. This is. She searched for the word. This is real. His answering smile was radiant. As summer gave way to autumn, their courtship became the subject of gentle gossip in Hayes City. The doctor's daughter and the cowboy she had nursed back to health, it was the kind of story people loved to tell. Willow found she didn't mind the whispers. In fact, there was something affirming about having their relationship acknowledged by the community. In September, Archer surprised her by purchasing a small plot of land adjacent to hers, expanding the Fletcher homestead by an additional 10 acres. What's this for? She asked, staring at the deed he had placed in her hands. For the future, he said simply. Our future if you'll have me. Willow's eyes widened. Archer, are you not proposing? Not yet, he clarified. But I want you to know that I'm committed to staying here, to building something permanent with you when the time is right. Tears of happiness blurred her vision. I think the time is getting closer, she whispered, and was rewarded with a kiss that left her dizzy. October brought cooler weather and an unexpected patient. Sheriff Miller himself, who arrived at their door clutching his side, his face pale with pain. Appendicitis, Willow diagnosed after examining him. It needs to come out, Sheriff, or it could rupture. The lawman looked terrified. Surgery, but you're not. I know I'm not a doctor, she said firmly. But I've assisted with this operation before and I know what to do. The alternative is to put you on the next train to Topeka, and I don't think you'd survive the journey. After a moment's hesitation, Sheriff Miller nodded. I trust you, Miss Fletcher. Willow prepared the kitchen table for surgery, boiling instruments and preparing laudanum for the pain. Archer stood by, ready to assist. Are you sure about this? He asked her quietly as she washed her hands. This is different from setting bones or stitching wounds. Willow's hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. I'm sure I know what to do, Archer. I've seen my father perform this surgery multiple times. Then I believe in you, he said simply, and his faith in her steadied her nerves. The surgery was difficult but successful. Willow worked methodically, her hands moving with a confidence that surprised even herself. Archer proved an excellent assistant, anticipating her needs and keeping the sheriff as comfortable as possible. When it was over, they moved the lawman to the spare bedroom to recover. Word of Sheriff Miller's successful operation spread quickly through Hayes City. Suddenly, Willow wasn't just the doctor's daughter providing basic care, she was a healer in her own right. More patients came, and with them, more challenging cases. She studied her father's medical books at night, refreshing her knowledge, and began ordering additional medical supplies from Kansas City. One evening in early November, as the first snow of the season dusted the ground, Archer found her at the kitchen table, surrounded by medical journals. Working late? He asked, placing a cup of tea beside her. She nodded absently, then looked up with a smile. Thank you. He pulled up a chair beside her. Willow, I've been thinking. Something in his tone made her set down her pencil. About us, about the future. He took her hand. Your practice is growing. You're becoming the doctor this town needs. I'm not a real doctor, she reminded him. You're as real as they come, he countered, but I've been wondering if you might want to make it official. Willow frowned in confusion. What do you mean? There are medical schools now that accept women. Not many, but they exist. In Philadelphia, New York, even Chicago. Her heart began to race. Archer, what are you saying? I'm saying that if you want to go to get your degree, I would support you. We could go together. I'd find work and you could study. For a moment, Willow was speechless. The idea of becoming a formally trained doctor had been a dream she'd long since abandoned. But what about the homestead? What about your land, the life we're building here? It would wait for us, he said. Or we could sell it, start fresh somewhere else after you finish your studies. What matters is that you get the chance to become everything you're meant to be. Tears filled Willow's eyes. You would do that for me, leave everything here? I would do anything for you, he said simply. Don't you know that by now? In that moment, Willow knew with absolute certainty that she loved this man not just for his kindness or his strength, but for the way he saw her, truly saw her, and wanted her to achieve her dreams. I love you, she whispered, the words coming easily now. But I don't want to leave Hayes City. My work is here, my father's legacy is here. She squeezed his hand. Our future is here. Relief and joy washed over Archer's face. Are you sure? I don't want you to have regrets. The only regret I would have, she said firmly, is not spending my life with you. Archer pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. Then marry me, Willow Fletcher, be my wife, my partner in everything. Yes, she breathed against his neck. Yes, I will marry you. Their wedding took place on Christmas Eve in the small church in Hayes City. The entire town turned out for the occasion, filling the pews and spilling into the street. Sheriff Miller, fully recovered from his operation, gave Willow away in place of her father. Mrs. Abernathy had made a beautiful white dress, and the church was decorated with evergreen boughs and red ribbons. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Archer kissed her with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. The cheers of the townspeople surrounded them as they walked back down the aisle, hand in hand. The reception was held at the town hall, with tables groaning under the weight of food contributed by nearly every family in Hayes City. There was dancing and laughter, and Willow found herself thinking that her father would have approved of this day, of this man who had captured her heart. Late in the evening, as the celebrations continued, Archer pulled her outside for a moment of quiet beneath the star-filled sky. Happy? He asked, his arms around her waist. More than I ever thought possible, she answered honestly. I never expected to find you, Archer, never expected to feel this way. I think your father had a hand in bringing us together, he said softly, watching over you, making sure you wouldn't be alone. The thought was comforting. I like to think so too. He kissed her then, a kiss full of promise and passion before leading her back inside to their friends and neighbors. Later that night, in the privacy of their home now truly theirs together, they consummated their marriage with tenderness and growing passion. As they lay together afterward, Willow nestled against his chest, listening to the strong, steady beat of his heart. "I was thinking," she said drowsily, "we could convert the barn into a proper clinic, move my practice out of the house." Archer chuckled, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "Already planning the future, Mrs. Zimmerman," the name sent a thrill through her. "Our future," she corrected. "And yes, I am. Is that a problem? Not at all." He kissed the top of her head. "I was thinking of expanding the vegetable garden, maybe adding some fruit trees, and we'll need a bigger house eventually." "For children?" she asked, looking up at him. His expression softened. "I'd like that, a family of our own." "So would I," she whispered, and sealed the promise with a kiss. Spring came early to Kansas in 1874. The snow melted, wildflowers bloomed across the prairie, and Willow's clinic, newly established in the converted barn, was busier than ever. Archer had hired 2 ranch hands to help with the expanded property, which now included a small herd of cattle and several acres of crops. They were prospering, both individually and together. In April, almost exactly a year after Archer had been brought to her doorstep more dead than alive, Willow discovered she was expecting their first child. "A baby," Archer whispered when she told him, his hand gently covering her still flat stomach. "Our baby." The wonder in his eyes matched the feelings in her own heart. "Are you happy?" "Happy doesn't begin to cover it," he said, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. "Willow, you've given me everything I never knew I wanted: a home, a purpose, your love, and now a child." He set her down gently. "I'm the luckiest man alive." As her pregnancy progressed, Willow continued to see patients, though she reluctantly handed over the more demanding cases to a young doctor who had recently arrived in Hays City. Dr. Thompson was fresh from medical school and grateful for Willow's practical experience and knowledge of the community. "You know, Mrs. Zimmerman," he told her one day as they worked side by side, treating a young girl with pneumonia, "you'd have made a fine physician with formal training." Willow smiled, one hand resting on her now visible pregnancy. "Perhaps in another life, doctor. In this one, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." Their son, James Archer Zimmerman, was born on a crisp November morning as the sun rose over the Kansas plains. He had his father's blue eyes and a tuft of his mother's blonde hair, and from the moment he drew his first breath, he was the center of their world. "He's perfect," Archer whispered, cradling his newborn son with careful hands. "Just like his mother." Willow, exhausted but radiant, watched her husband and child with a heart so full she thought it might burst. "I never thought I could be this happy," she admitted. "After my father died, I thought that part of my life was over." Archer sat beside her on the bed, their son nestled between them. "Sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best ones," he said softly. "If I hadn't been shot, left for dead. If I hadn't found you," she continued. "If you hadn't healed me," he added. Willow reached up to touch his face, tracing the line of his jaw. "We healed each other, Archer. That's the truth of it." He turned his head to kiss her palm. "And now we have a lifetime to build together." As little James grew from infant to toddler, their lives settled into a rhythm that suited them both. Willow's clinic continued to thrive, though she limited her hours to spend time with her son. Archer managed their expanding ranch with skill and dedication, hiring more help as needed but always making sure he was home for dinner with his family. In the spring of 1876, their daughter Elizabeth Willow Zimmerman arrived, completing their family. With her dark hair and green eyes, she was the perfect blend of both her parents. "Two perfect children," Archer marveled as they watched 3-year-old James cautiously holding his baby sister. "What did I do to deserve all this?" "You got shot," Willow teased, leaning against his shoulder. "Best thing that ever happened to you," he laughed, wrapping an arm around her. "Second best, meeting you was the first." 5 years after they first met, Hays City had grown considerably. The railroad had brought more settlers, more businesses, and more opportunities. The Zimmerman Ranch was now one of the most prosperous in the area, and Willow's clinic had expanded to include a small hospital wing where patients could recover from surgery or serious illness. On the anniversary of the day Archer had been brought to her, they always took a moment to remember how their story began. This year, they stood together on the porch of their home, expanded now to accommodate their growing family, watching James and Elizabeth play in the yard. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't been ambushed that day?" Willow asked, leaning into her husband's embrace. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I look at you, at our children, at everything we've built together, and I can't regret anything that led me here." "Even getting shot," she teased. "Even that," he agreed, turning her in his arms to face him. "Those bullets nearly took my life, but they gave me something far more precious in return." "What's that?" "You, Willow Zimmerman, your heart, your love." He kissed her softly. "You healed more than my wounds, you know. You healed parts of me I didn't even know were broken." Willow's eyes filled with tears of happiness. "And you healed me too. When I lost my father, I thought I'd lost everything, but you showed me that life goes on, that love finds a way." As the sun set over the Kansas prairie, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Archer and Willow Zimmerman stood wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by the life they had built together from the most unlikely of beginnings. Two wounded souls who had found in each other not just healing, but a love that would sustain them through all the years to come. "I love you," Archer whispered against her hair. "Yesterday, today, always." "And I love you," Willow replied, her heart full to overflowing. "My cowboy, my healer. My everything." In the distance, their children's laughter floated on the evening breeze, the sweetest music to their ears, the promise of a future built on love and healing, on second chances and dreams come true. From tragedy had come triumph. From pain had come joy. From a wounded cowboy and a grieving daughter had come a love story written across the wild Kansas prairie, as enduring as the land itself.